No one remembers who fell first, because the paperwork never cared. No official record keeps the tremor in the mother's voice when the radio changes tone, or the way a flag can be replaced before sunrise. 3 islands, 1 empire, a nation born in the shadow of another nation's refusal to leave. This isn't the kind of history that unfolds, it's the kind that gets managed. In Comoros, sovereignty wasn't granted like a gift. It was tested again and again until the test itself became the point. 1975, Comoros declares independence from France. A clean sentence on paper, a clean break if history were fair. But independence arrived carrying a condition. 1 island didn't come with the rest. Mayotte, separated by referendum, process that became a permanent wound. France recognizes Comoros, then keeps Mayotte. And in the space between those 2 actions, a country is born, missing a piece of itself. New states are fragile, but some are allowed to be fragile in private, and some are made fragile in public, so the world can point and say, see, they can do it. Comoros was small, black, far from cameras that linger, perfect for experiments where attention is minimal and accountability feels optional.
My grandmother said the soldiers came at night, and by morning the president had changed. We didn't understand politics. We understood the sound of boots.
A nation learns what it means when leadership is not an institution, but an appointment that can be rewritten. And then the pattern begins. Gilbert Bourgois became Bob Denard, mercenary, soldier of fortune, a man who moved through governance like a locksmith, quiet hands, loud outcomes. Some men are attracted to chaos, some men are hired to produce it, and no place would define Denard like Comoros. May 1978, Denard arrives with roughly 50 men. By dawn, President Ali Saleh is gone, Ahmad Abdallah is installed, and the mercenary becomes something more dangerous than a soldier, a shadow administrator. Some call it intervention, some call it rescue, some call it the birth of a client state. But the lived reality is simpler. The country wakes up and the rules have changed again.
We watched them replace leaders like changing clothes. We didn't always know who fell. We only knew the fear returned.
Instability doesn't just remove presidents, it rewires a population. People stop learning how to build, they learn how to brace. And above this turbulence, one constant, Mayotte. Strategic placement in the Indian Ocean, political symbolism at home, a territory France refused to release. To keep it, a story was useful, that Comoros was too unstable to be trusted with itself. Here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. When instability is profitable, it stops being a tragedy and starts being a tool. Not every thread is documented in public ink, but the pattern is visible in the timeline. Coup, reshuffle, justification, denial, repeat. A coup doesn't just take power, it teaches power how to behave. After enough overthrows, the government becomes a temporary structure, like a tent you expect to collapse in bad weather. And in that environment, democracy becomes theatre, elections, announcements, ceremonies, performed while everyone waits for the next interruption. 1995, Denard attempts another return, but this time, France intervenes directly. Operation Azali ends the mercenary era. Denard is later convicted, yet much of his sentence is suspended, and still the question hangs in the air. If he was once a rogue, why did he survive this long? The official line shifts depending on the decade, but Comoros remains what the timeline reveals. A place where power changed hands too easily, for too long, under too many watching eyes. When a country becomes known for coups, the world stops asking why. It starts assuming the instability is natural, like weather. But instability has authors and it has beneficiaries.
People call it failed, like it failed alone.
Exactly.
Even after soldiers left, the fear stayed. Children learn not how to lead, but how to survive the coming change.
That's what repeated destabilization does. It doesn't just steal years, it steals the future's confidence. Mayotte remains French. A different legal system, a different passport, a different promise of stability, paid for by a separation that never stopped hurting. This isn't only geopolitics, it's family, it's migration, it's who gets to move freely and who gets stopped at sea. And the world rarely frames it as violence because it isn't always loud. Sometimes violence is a border that eats people quietly. Once a country is branded unstable, everything becomes easier. Keeping territory, justifying intervention, dismissing sovereignty as a luxury. Comoros wasn't just destabilized by men with guns, it was destabilized by the stories told about it, stories that made domination sound like responsibility. Today, Comoros still wrestles with authority, elections contested, power centralized, trust fragile. Not because Comoros is uniquely doomed, but because a country shaped under constant interruption doesn't heal like a country allowed to grow uninterrupted. A nation can survive anything, but surviving isn't the same as living. One retained, one tested, one broken, then blamed for the break. Comoros became a laboratory for modern control. Small nations, far from headlines, where outcomes can be shaped quietly and explained loudly after. There were no apologies, no global commission, no moment where the world gathered to admit what it watched. Because the easiest crime to commit is the one committed slowly, in a place the cameras don't love. Comoros is what it became, a nation repeatedly destabilized in the orbit of another nation's needs. History records it in dates and decrees. People remember it in fear and interrupted lives. The record is not perfect, but the pattern is clear. Instability, ask yourself,